Hello and welcome to the first inaugural podcast of Season 3 of the Pro Detailer Magazine podcast. And we have a little taster, a little introduction,
It's a precast.
It's a precast of a podcast. There we go. That's what we're doing. My name's Bert, and we're also joined by...
Ian,
and we collectively put together the Pro Detailer magazine and do various...
Sorry about that.
Yeah, do other things. But we just wanted to have a little kind of conflab with each other and you about issue 14, give you a little insight into kind of behind the scenes, if you like, of how it's all put together.
Yeah, last time we did this was 13, wasn't it, when we were waiting for the magazines to actually show up, and it was a little bit hit or miss, so...
It was a bit twitchy.
Oh, no, that was for 12. We didn't actually end up doing one for 13,
No,
did
we didn't. No.
We kept on talking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only a month and a half late this time, so...
Well, it's an interesting one because with 13 it was kind of a lockdown mag again. We didn't have much CCA in there, Car Care Adventures that is.
Yeah, we couldn't do any international travel, and it was still sort of frowned upon to do too much. So it was a lot more...
Well, we made up
stuff.
We made up for it in issue 14, though. We've been all over the place to put 14 together.
Yes.
I was trying
just
to
checking that we still could. It's like, get out there, we can leave, just go do it.
I tried doing a mileage calculation, but I ran out of fingers. But the weird thing is, actually, I did do a mileage calculation at one point. We've driven something like 6,000 miles for that one issue, which is kind of cool.
And that doesn't include coming down here and back for me.
No, or flying to Italy and back. So, yeah, all exciting stuff. But we just do a little kind of casual read-through. And this is, as I say, off-the-cuff stuff between us two, because we chatted about it when we were doing it, and then we quietly...
Don't expect sparkling content.
No, not at all.
Don't start now.
And there are little bits that, in the edit, we both put in without the other one knowing, and then we kind of reread it and think, oh, God... we'd have to put that to legal and then realise there is no legal. But we did the A to Z of news, and actually, for once, it wasn't a huge challenge. And we haven't actually missed any letters or made any completely silly ones, which is good. But highlights for me, I think, shout out really to Michael of the Polishing Booth up in Leyland, and he's done his 12th year training, which popped up, which I think is a good tour of service in this industry, particularly as a multi-brand reseller. We had the Change of Hands of Detailing World, which we've talked to John Hole about, which is on a podcast in this forthcoming series. So, ears out.
The great one. For the first time in a long time, we've managed to use W for wax stock without having to say that it's not going ahead. Positive factor.
It's
good news. It's happening.
The first trip out, I actually went up to Manchester, Stockport, Denton. Denton is where it's at, for Concept Chemicals, who are basically the owners of Zirconite, or at least they're the manufacturers behind Zirconite, which is a sort of ceramic specialist detailing wing of it. And they had a detailer day, and that was fun. And get to meet Sean the Professor, who's their kind of technical in-house detailer R&D chappie.
What is that blue keg over in the photo things on the right-hand side, on the right-hand page?
The blue keg.
Wax, or is that a polish?
That is a polish, I think. I think they were making a compound there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they were doing lots of compound manufacturers. They've got lots of big vats. That really is a decent sized site and run very professionally. And we've been to quite a lot of chemical factories in the past, and yeah, it was good. Then I shot down the opposite end of the country to Devon to see Nicola, and we did a lovely Audi that, strange enough, I briefly owned, but
Who
never
is
saw.
on this coming series of the podcast as well.
Yes, and we talked about all sorts of things, and it was a really nice podcast. That, which brings us to the IDA PVD day.
That was a good laugh.
That was fun, wasn't it?
Decent burgers as well.
Yeah. Well, you as an ex-chef talked to one of your chefing friends, and he came over and did some chefing, and everybody did some manging, and we were all happy and full and fat.
Chilled in the sunshine.
Yeah.
It seems like a long time ago now.
It does. Yeah. Well, we did. I remember I did a photography kind of teaching quick session upstairs, and then we had about an hour and a half talking about business with everyone
out in the lawns.
Out in the lawns, did a PVD business lecture, which was fun to do. And not everybody was asleep by the end of it. He wasn't asleep. It was terrible.
I wouldn't know I was asleep.
But that was good. We had Garage Therapy came over. That was fun. And we had Premium Shield came over, which was also cool. Who else came? That was it, wasn't it?
No, that was. I mean, we were there as well. So
Yeah, exactly.
Fine.
So that was brought the tone down.
Then a couple of days later, you shot off to Zeta Details.
Yeah, I went down to Sussex, and that was an auto bead training day, and they've got Justina Briz, lovely Justina, regularly in our pages, and she came all the way from Antwerp in Belgium. And there was also Nicola was there too. Zeta herself was there. So that was an interesting day, and they had a mixture of like enthusiasts and sort of long-serving valeters, and then some detailers, and got to meet Anthony as well, who come all the way down from Teesside. And yeah, no, it was fun. Then we went to Raw, which was kind of
Ripley, not that one, because we were getting very confused at this point because we had a lot of stuff in the diary of where exactly we were going for what, and because later on we were going up north, we were thinking that this was Ripley in Yorkshire. And good news, relatively. It wasn't. Unfortunately, it was Ripley that's kind of near Nottingham.
Yes.
So that was a fast drive with the windows up. But.
Yeah, it was the first time I drove your Mercedes as well, and yeah, I did, because then I drove it a second time, and I botched an overtake and scared myself and you as well. And that was on the way back from Western Supermare.
Yes, when you tried to accelerate and zoom forward, and it kicked in, and they went, "Oh no, stop, bugger!"
It's very easy to overestimate things in that car. But Raw were
skill,
yeah, style. Raw were interesting. So it is. I mean, we've talked about it in the past in terms of formation, but it's two guys who are ex-Verrekla, set up with a third man who's based in Hong Kong, and collectively they have done so well. They own all their factory and training centre and stuff like that, and yeah, they've got some clever tech and a really nice scientist, Chappie, who's helped us out a couple of times as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, what was quite interesting about this is these guys are. So I'm just going to move my mic a little bit because it's a bit easier. These guys are much more on the body shop side of things. So this is it started out as a little bit of a fringe of detailing thing, but with some of the tech that they're developing, these actual, they are actually ceramic abrasives. They're not just some SO2. It's actually
ceramic coated aluminium oxide abrasive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is a genuine ceramic tech, and they've got some real potential moving into the detailing side of it if that's the direction they want to go. I know Oliver, the chap over in Hong Kong, is very keen on the detailing side of it, and they have got some things like ceramic cuts and waxes and bits and bobs like that.
We did get a little bit of the detailer as a junior to the body shop. It was very much kind of, well, if it's good enough for body shop, it's good enough for detailing.
Yes.
Which I saw you as a detailer were a bit twitchy about.
Yes. You do kind of take offence, especially when any idiot can finish a car off.
So there was that.
This one doing
but you didn't actually start to fight about it because, then we went to UKDA, which is basically going home for a flex day, and then Teesside. Now, we're going to talk about this in more detail later because there's another article and the next mega test all about this. Unless
we can talk about our experience in the Middlesbrough Hotel. I mean, that was
next to Labour headquarters.
With lots of metal sheeting over the window, so they're obviously popular.
Yeah, lots of security, and I actually went for a wander in the early hours around Teesside, and that was interesting. There was a nightclub full of students who were so lots of young people wandering around, and also when we went to the site, which is the old ICI chemical site, first thing it said, there's no cameras. Now, speaking as a photographer, no cameras is a career limiting situation. And we had a special lecturer to let us in and stuff like that, and lots of different alarms. They had like an alarm for radiation leak, fire, terrorist attack, stuff like that. And I went there with my beard, which has now recently disappeared, by the way, chaps. That was a giggle. But we learnt lots about graphene, which was the whole point of doing it, and we will cover that shortly. Essex. Premium Shield.
You went to Essex.
That's your hometown. In fact, you stayed.
It's not my hometown; it's my home county.
You stayed with your parents.
Yeah, I actually went and visited my parents when we were down there instead.
Yeah,
stayed overnight. You went into some weird Premier Inn up north, and then went and got a dog guard for your Subaru.
I was about to say I drove up to Norfolk that night, got a Subaru, and then came back down again. I arrived.
Well, at least you got
hotel.
out. So
yeah, exactly. It was my first trip in Uncrashable 3, which I won't bore you with much.
That was good because we spent I think we probably spent about half a day, 3/4 of a day in the end with Graham over at Premium Shield having a play with.
Well, it took us about an hour to get to the right part of the industrial estate because there was some big vehicles moving and blocking things, and we found this dirt track, and we were in Uncrashable, which is basically obviously Colin McRae, and did a little power slide that made you squeal a little bit, which I was impressed that I managed to do that.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. You made a weird noise. It's got an LSD at the back, so it kind of locks up. No. It was an arousal scream, not a disappointment scream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've had one of those before.
Yeah, as a man with a child. So that was a highlight for me. But no, in honesty, it was good. And we met Sonna of In-Depth Detailing, and it was good to catch up with Sonna. And he was doing a course there in PPF, and we learned quite a lot, really.
Yeah, we got a couple of bits to stick on the Merc and try out ourselves, and we did a little guide on that later on.
Yeah. Then we popped by Stuart over at Autogenie.
He's a very nice tall man, isn't he?
He is. This is it. You see, I have a belief that the taller you are, the nicer you are. And in terms of PVD members, that stands out because we've got people like Ben Hewlett, who is 19 foot tall, and Stuart, who is frustratingly, he's about 2 and a bit inches taller than me, and I'm 6'3" and a bit, 6'5" and eels. And he's a lovely, lovely man, and he's got such a cool unit. He's so butch. He's got a gym in his unit, which is sort of off-putting, but he's a great guy, and he was doing some great work on a Disco 5 in those times.
Yeah, then we popped over and saw Maz over at Garage Therapy, and then of course it was kind of on the way back. It was kind of over and down the M1. And
see, that's an exception that proves the rule, because Maz is not a tall man, and he's very nice too.
Yeah.
And they've got their new unit.
Does support Spurs though? So.
Does he?
Yeah.
I don't know. And yeah, it was good to see Garage Therapy expanding to the point where they now basically need a warehouse and shipping distribution and stuff, being originally kind of a bathtub style kind of company. So that's really, really nice to see. And they've got that organised with some lovely Lister units as well. NEC Classic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Rich was up there, wasn't he, working on the Marina?
Yeah, and so they had a Morris Marina to build within a day, which is what they've been doing for quite a long time. And it was great to actually be there for a long time. Bumped into quite a few people. Saw James Batty of Auto Finesse. We had John Hole. I'm terrified I'm starting a list and then I'll forget somebody, but it was, we saw Mr. Lintech and Cheshire Detailing Supplies.
I'm going to stop you there before you run out of people and we'll move on.
Okay, that's good. But I do want to highlight the fact there was a Hawkeye Impreza that was detailed by Gareth, and that was a stunning car and stunningly well prepared as well. So just putting it in there. Then we went to Italy.
Yeah, evenally.
Bloody
Luckily.
hell.
That was really close, wasn't it?
That was super close. So this confessional here. I am normally pretty anal when it comes to planning trips and stuff like this, but somehow I managed to lose an hour in the time it takes to get to Gatwick. So
I still swear you had in your head that we were leaving from Heathrow, because that's where I thought we were leaving from when you said the time, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah, it's about right.
Yeah. And yeah, we got to the turn. You know the place where Google, if you're going from the M4 eastward and you need to get to the lower part of the M25, instead of just going to the M25 and around like a sensible human being, Google insists on sending you through places like Bracknell.
Cheveley services.
No. After Cheveley, after Reading. It's when it's 322M or something ridiculous. I don't pay any attention. I'm just driving. And
that's why we got in this problem in the first place.
Exactly. We were at Fleet by the time, and realised we had less than an hour to make it onto the aeroplane, not just to Gatwick, onto the aeroplane via like some long stay parking that I found dirt cheap, but it was about half a year away from Gatwick itself. And so
last minute we ended up having to ditch the parking idea, go and park on site.
Short-term parking, unbooked, £180.
Yeah, that was a pinch.
By God, we hit some serious speeds on the way there. And we had lovely Matt Taylor from Rupes with us in the back of the car, trying not to squeak. And he didn't actually, to his credit, he stayed very manly, and even the weeping was pretty good. And then we arrived at Milan and spent a long time fighting over a courtesy car because you needed a credit card and I don't have a credit card, so we had to put it in Ian's name. And then I was like, oh, but do I want to drive it with Ian's excess? Because if I have an accident, you're going to be basically homeless. And in the end, we decided I'd drive that first night and then you drove pretty much the rest of it.
Actually, all the rest of it.
All the rest of it, yeah. Yeah,
it was quite nice. It was a Stelvio.
Stelvio, although it claimed to have 200 odd brake, and it didn't. It definitely wasn't that quick. And in fairness, I did move it around the Rupes car park, so you know. That's...
I mean, I think the main problem was with you not driving was you were then relegated to navigational duties, which you are absolutely fucking useless at.
I'm very descriptive in the directions.
No, you're not. You're rubbish.
No, I'm overly descriptive. We got lost in Portsmouth recently.
You're hesitant. That's your problem.
I'm reflective. I take a philosophical approach to navigation.
Maybe we'll get there. Probably won't.
Yeah, and I'll spot things that are entirely irrelevant, like, oh, look at that, and look at this. And it's just, I'm not good at that.
Oh, look at that turning go by.
But yeah, no, it was fun. We had so Rupes treated us lovely, and we went out every night. And the first night we went out just to a local pizzeria that we went out on the last night too, and that was awesome.
It was €5 pizzas, though.
Oh,
gorgeous.
They were so gorgeous. And it was a very local place. They had like the footy on and the kids were playing around, and then you had like gabbering youths and then old
You absolutely
people.
couldn't check out the waitress because you knew it was all of their family behind the counter.
I don't really do that thing, but you've got more hormones than me. But still, it was lovely. And then on the middle night, we went to you see, I think it wasn't a chain quite. It was quite
No, it was a restaurant that was located within a butcher's.
yes.
But the butcher's, I think, had a couple of places around Milan. So it was just sort of a local chain, if you like.
Yeah, and the piece of meat that you had.
Well, this thing on the menu, they had they basically had it listed as a price per 100 grams. So I did sort of my calculations. Like, I'll have a 300 gram steak. So that's a little bit over 8 ounces. That's about right for a nice steak meal and everything like that. And the waiter came over and said, "Oh, can I have a 300 gram steak?" And it's like, "No, we only have 700." I'm like, okay. Let's do that then.
18-ounce steak comes out later. And it's the only time I am a big believer in finishing everything on my plate. I've had it since a kid. You know, if you don't do it, A, you've got to think of all the people starving around the world, and B, you get beaten. And that I didn't finish my plate there. I felt bad about it for 24 hours. Yeah, you did. I had a schnitzel though, which was it was a big schnitzel, and I've never had and I've been to Germany and had schnitzel, but this was
I've had a bastard schnitzel.
Yeah, this was so yeah, that was good. And anyway, Rupes, the whole point we're going there, we will talk about later. But we also then went to Monza Garage, which is really cool, and
Marco Bassini,
who we're interviewing in the next mag, and
built a really cool car.
Have you sent him questions yet?
No, not yet.
Send the
Probably
questions.
should.
And yeah, he had
for the purpose of the podcast, yes.
They had a custom-built car that they'd literally designed for an Abu Dhabian. Can we call him that?
You can call him Abu Dhabian.
Yeah, that's a thing. And it's based on a big pickup truck, and he put a custom body on it and lots of other custom bits. And we took lots of photos, and that's great. And then he said, "Oh, but we can't put this in print until March." So we're like, "Oh, okie dokie." So that's in issue 50.
Very cool, though.
It's very, very cool.
They've had to fit extra batteries for all the other crap they put on there.
Oh, it's got electric everything. It was and beyond your wildest dreams of electric things. It was bonkers. And one of my favourite photos I've ever taken, I've realised we printed really small, and I'm upset about that. And it's a black and white one of a race car in the back of the shed, and it's a really cool photo. And we've done it little, so we're going to have to print that one again. And
because the car was something like 1.5 million, wasn't it?
I thought it was 2.5 million.
2.5 million, something like that. And it's supposed to be one of 10. So in theory, they've got to do another 9 of them.
Yes, yeah. But they also had what was the other? They had a Panda 4x4 that they'd shoot.
That's very cool.
That was super. To be honest,
Off-road Panda.
Do I want a 2.5 million thing, on a Ram chassis looking pretty, or do I want a 4x4 Panda from the 80s? Answer: 4x4 from the and it had lights on the roof. Lights on the roof. I'm going to put that on Boris. I've got to have lights on my roof. It's a thing. Anyway,
we see the bottom of the ditch then.
Yeah, it is for when you rolled it. Labo
Thanks for
Cosmetica.
explaining that one.
Yeah, no, well, it was internal. Labo Cosmetica. We went to just on the morning of the Wednesday before we flew off again, and it was awesome as ever. We went to visit one of their detailers who's got a very Italian-sounding name, and I'm going to go for it.
dell'Alto.
Yeah, that's better than I would have done. So, yeah, let's just leave it at that. And they have literally a team of guys working, and they had a Ferrari in there. And I think everyone wanted us to take photos of the Ferrari, but actually, photographically speaking, the red Mustang was better and ended up being our front cover shot of all things. And then we did a podcast, which is in this series as well, with Marco, who is an absolute legend. He's now
Perpetually happy.
very happy.
I mean, you would be if you kind of owned that sort of company. You should go around in your Alpha every now and then.
Yeah, well, he goes racing all the time. He's been in the desert again. He's just, I'm not going to say Playboy lifestyle because it's not, but it's like, it's just so damn cool, basically. Yeah, when I grow up, I want to be like him.
What it is like to have a successful business.
Yeah. I can't remember that. And then we had a garage therapy accreditation day.
So this isn't in Italy. We flew back.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah, we did that flying back, and that was fun. And we like how Garage Therapy are doing their ceramic accreditations. And then just before print, I shot off to Kent, and we went and had a PVD day with Kelly Harris. So Kelly does a Advanced Plus thing exclusively for PVD members, and it's about an eighth of the price if you wanted to do it 1-to-1. And we also had Jim White there, who was attending. He'd been there for the rest of the week as well, and we'd spent some time doing some VT work with him, and that was great to catch up with Jim.
And when I assembled this, I was trying to find some sort of theme to go along with it. So if you look at the page, you'll see it all rounded in Kelly and Jim, and apparently Jim didn't get that.
To be fair, I didn't get that. Jim is younger than us, though.
Kelly and Jim for the pre-colour generation was a children's TV program in the early 90s.
Oh, wasn't it called Rosie and Jim?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now I get that more. Yeah, that makes more sense.
And that's why it's in the little portal with a duck on top. Because the duck used to turn around and quack because they were on a narrowboat.
Well, you see,
but Jim, apparently you said Jim's dad had to explain that to him.
Yeah, but Jim
apparently is 30.
I think he's 30, 31, something like that.
I thought he was.
He was. Yeah. Bear in mind, every time you make a cultural reference, it's not, if I don't say anything,
you need culture to understand it.
I was about to say, it's not that I get it and I'm doing it. I just stay quiet because I don't want it to be explained, because it'd be reference football or popular music or something. And one thing I've noticed is the graphic of the car that we've got in the Car Co Adventures is still Fritz, the big black Audi. Mm-hmm. And actually Fritz has been in a barn for the last 3 years, so we need to turn it into VOD, the blue Audi, or Uncrashable 3.
You cannot claim that you actually know the difference being colourblind.
No, I can tell
that's
blue and black.
Slightly different colour grey.
Colourblind does not mean monovision. I can still, identify colours vaguely.
Your dogs have better identification than you do.
Yeah, they do. And this time, so last issue 13, we chatted with Matt Angelwax, and he wrote us a lovely article, took lots of photos. This time, because of lockdown had ended, he's also on a podcast. Plumbing heck, it's almost like a fix. And I flew up.
Like the people we talked to.
Yeah, I flew up to Glasgow and took photos and wandered around their new place, and it was amazing. And then I got taken out for an Indian as well, which was great, and got to talk with John, which is spun through to allow us to do what we're doing for the next mega test, which I keep alluding to, but I'm not going to give you any more detail yet. So that was an awesome couple of days in Glasgow, which I don't think I've ever said before. And then we crack into the new products. Ian, what new product flicks your switch this year?
I don't know about flicks my switch. I mean, there are some interesting ones in here. I think the one for me was.
They're all interesting, obviously.
They're all interesting, but something stood out as different, as it were.
Yes.
Also, done this acid wheel cleaner. Now, I'm not saying it's great or bad or anything like that. It's different because I can't remember having an acid wheel cleaner that I've sprayed on a wheel and it fizzed.
Yes, it's strong.
Yeah, it's very strong, and you can dilute it down 1 to 10. So
yeah, it's got all the. It did a really good job, and the thing is, your wheels on your Mercedes are black, painted by hand by a blind person. They're terrible.
Yeah,
absolutely terrible. And if anything was going to start flaking paint, it would be an acid wheel cleaner. And actually, yours are just as terrible as they were. They're just a bit cleaner.
Yeah, they're fine. I'd just like to know why it fizzed, because it fizzed the tyres as well. It's definitely reacting with something. So whether it's acid and there's like watermarks on there,
but it's not like in a metal tin. It's in a normal bottle. In fact,
no, it was one of these. It actually hit the surface and then started fizzing.
Yeah, there was like a weird 2-second delay.
There's some reaction in there, so it's cool. Use with caution if you're on sensitive wheels, but different.
Yeah, different indeed.
What about you?
There are quite a few that I was kind of intrigued by.
I'll just point out that we've got all the new Nanolix things in there with their new packaging.
Yes,
quite cool. We
indeed.
Spoke to Josh about on the last series.
Indeed, just Tobin. And we the other thing is, the ones we had were pre-release labels, so they looked a bit flaking. They're only in German, but actually we've got the proper ones through, and they're lovely, absolutely lovely. Another thing I'd like to draw attention to is Diamond Bright ceramic kit. So they sent us through the one that they send to dealerships, and they openly admit it's an amino-based ceramic, not a polysilazane, I think. And the idea being they're trying to create one that can be applied in a dealership setting, which isn't going to it's harder to cock up, should we say. But I just liked their honesty of talking to Lance about how they're trying to, make something fit for purpose. And I thought that was quite nice. It was always nice to get stuff.
It's quite a fine line to have to walk. So.
It is. It's a tough one. And then the other thing that really stood out to me, we've got lots of nice XCP professional stuff through, but I'm not a motorcyclist, so didn't actually use any of that.
We did put a lot of these sprays, however, onto the side of the Merc.
Yes.
A little sort of, let's just see how they do. every single one of these, and you'll see on this page there is four spray sealants and of varying chemistry, SO02, graphene, and spray sealants, the sort of the classic nano water-based stuff. And there is HD car cares hybrid cream wax, which we then covered on the bonnet. You know, technically, and oh no, I did the spoiler.
The spoiler, yeah.
Technically, you could argue that the bonnet is either less or more susceptible to product
failure, I guess. Is it harder to live on a bonnet than it is on a door?
Yeah.
Good question.
But 2.5, 3 months after we put those on there was absolutely no sign of any of the sprays, and the hybrid cream wax is even still now, up until the other week when I had to physically polish it off for another test we're doing, still going strong.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, I like a liquid wax. It reminds me of SRP. I mean, I'm not saying this is SRP, it really isn't, but it just, the whole process of wiping a cream on your sheet metal and buffing, it's a good product. And hybrid, obviously, it's got some tech in there, and that's why it's lasting so well. So yeah, no, that's a thing.
So partially positive for them, but also a slight downer on the spray sealants. They did what they they're advertised to, by all means. Well, you know, we put them on there and they're nice beading and everything like that. But if you're looking for endurance,
yeah, I would probably mitigate somewhat, because we've got one which is very much a quick detailer, so it's not about protection. We had one that involved graphene, which we did notice it actually there were black spots in it, which was curious.
Which was one of the early problems with graphene.
Yeah, and there's another one that I know works kind of pretty damn well as a kind of a rinse coat thing, so not necessarily as an LSP, and then one is just a spray and wipe with a bit of ceramic in it. So yeah, what's interesting is that the one that's nicest to use and most satisfying is also
the oldest tech, technically.
Yeah, and it lasts. Hardware, well, I think we've mentioned it before, because in the last series we had PJ of Dodo Juice, and he bought over when he came the coolest goddamn detailing bag there is.
Yes.
And I wrote the description on it and got worked out the cubic capacity of all the different detailing bags on the market. That's how exciting I am.
It really is how exciting you are.
Yeah, but I really like that. And it's got a pad holder and stuff at the top, which makes it different.
And PJ's big thing was you can throw a pad at it and it sticks to the Velcro there.
Eventually, yes. Yeah, you have to be a better thrower than me. Was in the hardware in what floated your boat?
Plenty of interesting stuff in there. The Mafra detailing brushes are quite cool. We actually got little schematics of how the bristles are inserting like star patterns, and they're actually
different materials.
There's quite a lot of thought gone into it. It's not just stuffing a brush end into the back of a pig and seeing how it comes out.
Yeah, and it's well thought out stuff. It brings me to the detail guards as well with their dirt lock stuff. I just like how they do their stuff. And I think actually here we need to point out there's an amendment and apology. We photographed it in a Slims bucket, and then in the text we talked about how annoying overpriced small American buckets are. I want it to be very clear that we're not saying the Slims bucket is an overpriced American bucket, because it is American, but it is not small. It's 25 litres. It's
a decent price as well.
Very decent price. And so, yeah, the inference that we were talking about, the Slims bucket.
A lot of these can sometimes be supplied with very cheap things from some retailers, was the overall inference.
Yes.
When they're brought in. Not in this case.
Yes. I did have a little black bucket that I was going to do the photos in, but blow me down, taking a photo of a black detail guard's dirt lock with a scrub wall in a black bucket, really bloody difficult. Really difficult. So we used the white bucket of Sims, who now instantly have brought out a grey bucket that we're going to be...
the Martin Cox one?
Possibly.
Was that
No, I think this is... No, this is...
white plastic's expensive.
No, it's because I've been asked to do a black bucket, but they think everybody else is doing black bucket, so we're going to do grey.
Oh, okay. I thought there was like a production thing.
And no, they're made by Gritguard in America, I think. So yeah, quality stuff, and apologies for any accidental stuff, sort of inference there.
Last thing for me from the hard one, we'll start to power through these a bit more, because we're going a lot longer than we thought we were.
What are we up to?
Half an hour.
Holy hell.
Yeah, we were supposed to do this in 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Svizzer thermopads. We've actually got some physically in our hands now, and these are actually quite interesting upcoming tech, and it's something that Detlef has exclusive patent over as well. So this is the only place you're going to be able to get this tech, and it's to do with how the cells react to heat. So the more you polish, you heat up the pad, and the pad actually loses its
Rigidity.
Rigidity, that's a good enough word for the sake of this conversation.
Firmness.
Whereas apparently up to 70% reduction, whereas these thermopads, you can cut for longer with them. They don't lose any of the rigidity.
You can rub them as much as like and they don't go soft.
Yes, and I think it's something like they'll only lose something like 10 to 15%. Don't quote me on that because I kind of heard that in passing, but yeah, it's about that. And they're better, and we'll try them out and see how they do.
Yeah. No, well,
interesting stuff, though.
Yeah.
Pro Detailer issue 14 is now available on the Pro Detailer website at www.prodetailermagazine.com.
Right, let's fizz through some of these.
Okay, well, speaking of interesting, your PIR guide, you're very humble about this, but it's really, really important to get your dilutions right. And Ian has done a great job of giving you a quick guide how to do that.
A lot more people are using PIR on bottles, so it's quite good to actually have it out there as a quick reference guide.
Indeed. Now, we had a huge article on the undercarriage of Morris, and we used Lanagard, and we cleaned them up thoroughly and then sprayed Lanagard underneath them for some rust protection. A lot of people are saying horse bolted before stable door shut when it comes to
there was already
rust.
plenty of anti-rust stuff under the form of engine oil.
There was lots of engine oil under there, lubricating, adding character to my undercarriage. But no, that was an interesting one. And if you are doing the underside of your car, if you're a JDM fan, I'd advise having a good read there. We interviewed also...
Thomason! Woo! He's awesome.
Very cool guy.
Really nice, friendly chap as well. Does all this awesome artwork on machine polishers, etc. Does his own artwork, does custom shoes and things like that as well. So that's a really cool little interview, a little peek behind the scenes of how he does his bits and pieces. Then, on a slightly, similar tangent.
What, foreign?
Well, he does Ruper's stuff when we went to.
Oh, that's a more obvious tangent. Yeah, I probably should have gone to that first. Yeah. We went to Ruper's, didn't we?
Really irritating, that P in the middle of the page.
Oh, get to be in your bonny about it.
Well, there's a double page spread that's the intro, and it looks like it just says Ruiz, and that's because when we were putting this together, I spoke to the printers and I said, okay, well, can we make sure that the
picture is constant.
Yeah, so we put a little bit of a border on the inside of the split page, and it pushes everything out, and it looks fine when it's open. And he said, the technology.
You know how we were trying to keep it within time.
It does not. So yeah, apologies, Ruiz. It's supposed to be Rupes, and someone was flogged for that.
Yes. So we wanted around all the factories. I'd say factories because it's Rupes is they do their own chemicals, their own pads, their own backing plates, their own machines, their own motors, all of which happen in different buildings that are all pretty close to each other, but not necessarily conjoined.
Yes.
And yeah, we saw an awful lot of stuff. We couldn't, and I confess, we couldn't show everything in the mag because some of the stuff they do is top secret and they don't want everybody else hearing about it. So understandably, we've restricted some stuff, but there's still loads of interesting photos in there. They had a museum. Which was very cool, learning about the history of not just Rupes, but really the history of polishing and detailing before the word was even coined.
We had an interview with the Big Boss Man.
Interview with Big Boss Man.
Big Boss Man, most people don't actually ever hear from or see the actual of it.
He was so charming, I have to admit. No, I took a photo of him and he asked to have a look at the back of my camera. Mm-hmm. And, well, he asked to look at my camera. So I showed him the camera. No, the picture at the back. Oh, okay. And he said, you're a good photographer. Obviously, I swooned. And I just said, no, I'm lucky. And he said, You didn't
see his fingers crossed behind his back at the time.
No, because they were behind his back. And just in the reflection. And he said Napoleon apparently once said that he didn't want good generals, he wanted lucky generals. Now, that's an educated man. So anyway, we did lots of that. And then we came back and played with your Mercedes, which was putting some PPF on the wing mirrors.
Yes.
There was not too much blasphemy there. Normally I would envisage lots of blasphemy, but actually we did it one way on one wing. And
so that premium material stuff was actually quite nice to work with. I haven't worked with a lot of PPF before because I haven't done it.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of let's just see what an idiot can do with it in his hand, and
then I gave it to you, and you had a go, yeah. Clay Lube Chemistry Corner, interesting stuff. This article's been on the back burner for a while because we've been seeking stuff, but we went and talked to Giacomo and Ricardo and Giacomo at Labo, who just brought out Lubrifica, Lubrifics, a new clear lubricant from Labo Cosmetica, really, really interesting.
It's more just a look at there is a point behind dedicated clay lubes. Sometimes you can can use your bucket of water with a clay cloth if you're just doing very rough stuff. But for if you want to take a bit more chance, you don't want to cause any damage. You want to see if you get stuff out without having to compound things out afterwards. Definitely a good thing to look at.
Brings us on to the mega test.
Yes.
Now,
Did anyone understand the graphic?
it was a pop musical thingy, wasn't it? Yes.
Because it took me ages to find that car. Because that is an accurate. I can't remember exactly what it is now, but it took me absolutely ages to find the exact car that was on the front cover of InXS's New Sensation.
Oh, that was the thing. Yeah. All I know is every time I open the InDesign file, because you copied and pasted that thing, there was about 60 megabytes worth of images that had to load every time you zoom in and out, even a little bit, and my little computer couldn't cope. On this, can we first of all say thank you to Soft99, because they very kindly got Mr. Shelton in, who's one of their scientists, and Paul. He gave us lots of interesting insight into the technology behind tyre dressings and stuff, and so that is much appreciated. We tested, so we asked you guys for your most popular or your favourite tyre dressing, and we got a list of about 103, I think, in the end, and you voted in the 8 contestants that we put here. Now, some of these products were our conventional tyre dressings. We have a tyre wax from Soft99 that was awesomely good at matting the tyre and stuff. We had Gary Therapy, which is a tyre serum, not a tyre dressing, and we need to sort of reiterate that. So it didn't necessarily suit the criteria of the test, but it
was your favourite, so you went in just to see what it's good.
Exactly. We also had Blackout from Car Pro, which is it's not a ceramic coating for tyres, but it looks like one, is priced like one, and is significantly different from everything else. And it was definitely an interesting experience. We had to take the wheels off to put it on. It had a cure time. It was complex, but we're seeing this kind of technology in tyre dressings is great. We put in Meg's Endurance because it won the last one, and interestingly, it didn't win this one. So, development.
Things have moved on in the world.
They have indeed, just about. Enigma Elixir from Angel Wax was in there. Ceramic one worked really, really well on a new tyre. It beat everything out of the world for that. We had lots of different tests and bits and bobs that we did, and it's all in there.
Jana gummy stuff, which was nice and easy to put on.
That was easy, and it tasted good. And Bouncers Dressed to Impress, that was proper old school, but actually I really liked it. It was effective. It reminded me of stuff that I used quite a while ago, but it lasted a long time, and it added a nice natural gloss to things, so I was a fan of that. And then there was Q2 Tyre from Guion. But
and we went through some quite... We went through stages with this testing, didn't we? Because we the first time we tried to do tests on it, we put it on the wheels just before we went up to T-side. And frankly, none of them did that well.
No, the problem we have is... They
needed a wash to reveal a couple of them as well. But.
Yeah, that's the thing. The problem is because we pushed the test, we'd done longer than we probably should have done. If we'd stopped earlier, we would get a nicer gradient from least performance to best performance. But because we'd left it so long, all we could really make out were the top 2 or 3, and then very slight contrast. So it was tricky, but there was definitely the top 2 were pretty clear on that one.
We did have some interesting techniques for drying the tyres off for the test.
Yeah,
because Quattro
put it on a ramp, spin the wheels with the engine, and then work out how to turn off all the warning lights that come on afterwards. But that was my problem.
Yep,
indeed. And although you probably saved my life, because we had to get the spare out because the tyre needed to come off for the Guion, which needs a heat gun to apply it, and the Car Pro, which needs cure time. And I put on my spare, which it turns out is original to the car. And it's a year 2000 car. And that was, eye-opening. I'm surprised I'm still alive, to be honest. Moving swiftly on, we did a guide to podcasting, and we
really should start reading that at some point.
Yeah, but it tells you everything you need in terms of microphones and cables and softwares and stuff. So
it's a nice, easy thing to get into. You don't have to do these stupidly long ones that we end up doing. You can do 10, 15-minute podcasts, and they're good for people just to listen to, engage with.
Yeah, I mean, you can do also the same kit if you want to do a bit karaoke. At night when this is FTI, I sometimes creep into the office and sing along on that Roadcaster.
ASMR stuff.
I wouldn't describe that as a bit more erotic.
I'm going to clean the car now.
Okay, this is another popular
It's ASMR.
Don't give me letters. I got confused at WWF.
People speaking really close to a microphone with the gain turned up massively, so it's supposed to please the brain. That's why it's had no effect.
Well, that didn't please my brain. And this takes us to a far more cerebral topic, which is graphene. Do you want to talk about graphene? Do I want to talk about graphene?
Well, we're still in the middle of the testing, so all this was kind of our first foray into it, just to see kind of if there is anything to it in the first place. You know, we go through a bit of the story behind graphene, because it's not as easy as some people said. Oh, well, they just put a piece of Scotch tape onto some graphite and peeled it off, and there was more to it than that.
You still got a Nobel Prize for doing that.
Yes, it was just one way they found to actually easily obtain graphene, and it could come off of there. Things have moved on since then, and now they're firing things through into slurries and drying things off, and it's much more complicated and very expensive. And yeah, we went up to AGM.
AGM, who are Applied Graphene Materials. I always accidentally call them Advanced Graphene Materials. It's not. It's applied. So, smack wrist. Naughty. We learned an awful lot there, and they were refreshingly honest. I mean, they're multi-million-pound research incubator thingamajiggles. So we've got some very clever people with lots of letters after their name. It was eye-opening, and now we've basically been charged by them, but also by our own intellectual interest, I guess. Intellectual is a bit of a stretch. Curiosity. Interest, to see if graphene does have benefits. And we've started doing some blind testing. We've done all sorts of clever stuff, which we'll talk about in the future.
Because a lot of this is kind of assumption based on the general properties of graphene. So just assuming that it's all in theory, this should all work. Does it?
Yeah, and that question the next mega test we won't talk about here because we've already gone way over time, but it's interesting, and trust me, you'll want to have a read about it. We then go into Trader Talk, and one thing is fraud during lockdowns and stuff like that. Fraud took over, and it really did, and a lot of detailers were affected. So we've actually put together a guide on specific different types of frauds. If you know about these scams, then it's much harder to be got by them. Then we also talked about retaining customers. So this is sort of PVD guidance article and how you can do it. So always worth a read if you're in business, and it doesn't even have to be a car care business, to be honest. Anything like that would be good. Just an advert, Valet Pro 24 Plus, their new ceramic coating, which yesterday I was down chatting with them about it and learning about their development, and that will be in issue 15 too. Holland. Oh, I love that Arctic artwork. We had a working title for this showcase article about the Dutch Detailing Centre, and the working title was rubbish, but then you came up with Arctic artwork, which I think is quite cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to see you proofreading all of these things.
Yeah, no, well, I am, but my brain doesn't retain much.
If you don't know the story, the proofing for this magazine was interesting, because normally what happens in the last week, we start printing out hard copies on our lovely big VersaLink C.
Big Bertha the second.
And actually looking at what it looks like in real life rather than on a backlit screen, and then we find all of the problems go incorrect and everything like that. And normally that's a collaborative effort, and we're sat around the table going through things, and generally I think it probably snags 99.9% of any issues.
I'd put it more like at 85% of issues, but yeah, I mean, things still get through. I still get messages from people who spend their life.
But you can ignore them, so it's fine. But this time, some idiot decided to get COVID, and he has the printer in the office here. So I had no input, so it's not my fault.
Yeah, plausible deniability.
Any problems?
Yeah, talk to me. Yeah, well, I've already had messages like, for example, apparently on the spine, the issue 14 bit is 1/4 of an inch at a different height from the other ones. So when it's lined up in a bookcase.
We don't actually do any of that. We just tell them what we want on there.
Yeah, we're shifting the blame.
That's one bit we don't design.
Shifting blame again. And then we did the super van, which was cool. Scott Wheels Detailing up in Scotland. Surprise, surprise. And that was a fun thing. So that kind of rounds it out. We've got the PVD directory in the back as per normal. But issue 14 is obviously still available. We'd love it if you don't really have it to buy it. You can get it on prodetailermagazine.com. Postage to the UK is free, but we also offer full international delivery. But if you're in Holland, check out Car Care Netherlands, because they've got it. If you're in America, check out Detail Division, because he's got it. And it'll be cheaper and quicker to get hold of it. So do it. Anything else you want to add? Or should we just talk about the upcoming season we have? Salt and pepper.
No, I don't really want to talk about the upcoming season. Keep it a surprise. Yeah. We have people coming up.
Yes.
Another 8 episodes, I think, maybe something like that.
And we've already recorded quite a lot of them. We did 2 in Italy. We've got some serious heavyweight celebs, as per. And
hopefully one of them will come back into being, because
it's one of them we've had to pull, and we see what happens. We'd be very unhappy if it doesn't get allowed in. But anyway, so yes, keep following this channel, and we'll do podcasts and shit like that.
Woohoo!